Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back with more The Diary of Anne Frank. So yeah, we are just starting the uh, fleeing to the hiding spot because the Nazis are coming. I mean, they've already been in charge, but now they're coming after their particular family and stuff. So anyway, let's jump into this. Thursday, July the 9th, 1942. Dearest Kitty, so there we were, father, mother, and I, walking in the pouring rain, each of us with a school bag and a shopping bag, filled to the brim with the most varied assortment of items. The people on their way to work at that early hour gave us sympathetic looks. You could tell by their faces that they were sorry they couldn't offer us some kind of transportation. The conspicuous yellow star spoke for itself. Only when we were walking down the street did father and mother reveal, little by little, what the plan was. For months, we'd been moving as much of our furniture and apparel out of the apartment as we could. It was agreed that we'd go into hiding on July the 16th because of Margot's call-up notice. The plan had to be moved up 10 days, which meant we'd have to make do with less orderly rooms. The hiding place was located in Father's office building. That's a little hard for outsiders to understand, so I'll explain. Father didn't have a lot of people working in his office, just Mr. Kugler, Mr. Kleiman, me, and 23-year-old typist named Bep Voskil, all of whom were informed of our coming. Mr. Voskil, Bep's father, works in the warehouse along with two assistants, none of whom were told anything. Here's a description of the building. The large warehouse on the ground floor is used as a workroom and storeroom and is divided into several different sections, such as the stockroom and the milling room where cinnamon, cloves, and a pepper substitute are ground. Next to the warehouse doors is another outside door, a separate entrance to the office. Just inside the office door is a second door, and beyond that, a stairway. At the top of the stairs is another door, which is with a frosted window on which the word office is written in black letters. This is the big front office, very large, very light, and very full. Bep, Miep, and Mr. Kleiman worked there during the day. After passing through an alcove containing a safe, a wardrobe, and a big supply cupboard, you come to a small, dark, stuffy back office. This used to be shared by Mr. Kugler and Mr. Van Daan, but now Mr. Kugler is its only occupant. Mr. Kugler's office can also be reached from the hallway, but only through a glass door that can be opened from the inside, but not easily from the outside. If you leave Mr. Kugler's office and proceed through the long, narrow hallway past the coal bin and go up 4 steps, you find yourself in a private office, the showpiece of the entire building. Elegant mahogany furniture, a linoleum floor covered with throw rugs, a radio, a fancy lamp, everything first class. Next door is a spacious kitchen with a hot water heater and 2 gas burners. And beside that, a bathroom. That's the second floor. A wooden staircase leads from the downstairs hallway to the 3rd floor. At the top of the stairs is a landing and doors on either side. The door on the left takes you up to the spice storage area. attic and loft in the front part of the house. A typically Dutch, very steep, ankle-twisting flight of stairs also runs from the front part of the house to another door opening onto the street. The door on to the right of the landing leads to the secret annex at the back of the house. No one would ever suspect there were so many rooms behind the plain gray door. That's just one small step in front of the door, and then you're inside. Straight ahead of you is a steep flight of stairs. To the left, a narrow hallway just opening into a room that serves as the Frank family's living room and bedroom. Next door is a smaller room, the bedroom and study of the two young ladies of the family. To the right of the stairs is a windowless washroom with a sink. The door in the corner leads to the toilet, and another one to Margot's and my room. If you go up the stairs and open the door at the top, you're surprised to see such a large, light, and spacious room in an old canal-side house like this. It contains a stove, thanks to the fact that it used to be Mr. Kugler's laboratory, and a sink. There will be a kitchen and a bedroom of Miss and Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan, as well as the general living room, dining room, and study for us all. A tiny side room is to be Peter Van Daan's bedroom. Then, just as in the front part of the building, there's an attic and a loft. So there you are. Now I've introduced you to the whole of our lovely annex. Yours, Anne. Friday, July the 10th, 1942. Dearest Kitty, I probably bored you with my long description of our house, but I still think you should know where I've ended up. How I ended up here is something you'll figure out from my next letters. But first, let me continue my story, because as you know, I wasn't finished. After we arrived at 263 Pinsegrat, Miep quickly led us through the long hallway and up the wooden staircase to the next floor and into the annex. She shut the door behind us, leaving us alone. Margot had arrived much earlier on her bike and was waiting for us. Our living room and all other rooms were so full of stuff that I can't find the words to describe it. All the cardboard boxes that had been sent to the office in the last few months were piled on the floors and beds. The small room was filled from floor to ceiling with linens. If we wanted to sleep in properly made beds at night, we had to get going and straighten up the mess. Mother and Margot were unable to move a muscle. They lay down on their bare mattresses, tired, miserable, and I don't know what else. But Father and I, the two cleaner-uppers in the family, started in right away. All day long we unpacked boxes, filled cupboards, hammered nails, and straightened up the mess until we fell exhausted into our clean beds at night. We hadn't eaten a hot meal all day, and we didn't care. Mother and Margot were too tired and keyed up to eat, and Father and I were too busy. Tuesday morning we started where we left off the night before. Bep and Miep went grocery shopping with our ration coupons. Father worked on our blackout screens. We scrubbed the kitchen floor and were once again busy from sunup to sundown. Until Wednesday, I didn't have a chance to think about the enormous change in my life. Then, for the first time since our arrival in the secret annex, I found a moment to tell you all about it, and to realize what had happened to me and what has yet to happen. Yours, Anne. Saturday, July the 11th, 1942. Father, Mother, and Margot still can't get used to the chiming of the Westertorten clock, which tells us the time every quarter of an hour. Not me. I liked it from the start. It sounds so reassuring, especially at night. You no doubt want to hear what I think of being in hiding. Well, all I can say is that I don't really know yet. I don't think I'll ever feel at home in this house, but that doesn't mean I hate it. It's more like being on vacation in some strange pension. Kind of an odd way to look at life in hiding, but that's how things are. The annex is an ideal place to hide in. It may be damp and lopsided, but there's probably not a more comfortable hiding place in all of Amsterdam. Not in all of Holland. Up to now, our bedroom with its blank walls was very bare. Thanks to Father, who brought my entire postcard and movie star collection here beforehand, and to a brush and a pot of glue, I was able to plaster the walls with pictures. It looks much more cheerful. When the Van Daans arrive, we'll be able to build cupboards and other odds and ends out of the wood piled in the attic. Margot and Mother have recovered somewhat. Yesterday, Mother felt well enough to cook split pea soup for the first time, but then she was downstairs talking and forgot all about it. The beans were scorched black, and no amount of scraping could get them out of the pan. Last night, the four of us went down to the private office and listened to England on the radio. I was so scared someone might hear it that I literally begged Father to take me back upstairs. Mother understood my anxiety and went with me. Whatever we do, we're very afraid the neighbors might hear or see us. We started off immediately the first day sewing curtains. Actually, you can hardly call them that, since they're nothing but scraps of fabric, varying greatly in shape, quality, and pattern, which Father and I stitched crookedly together with unskilled fingers. These works of art were tacked to the windows, where they'll stay until we come out of hiding. The building on our right is a branch of the Keg Company, a firm from Zaandam, and on the left is a furniture workshop, though the people who work there are not on the premises after hours. Any sound we make might travel through the walls. We've forbidden Margot to cough at night, even though she's had a bad cold, and are giving her large doses of codeine. I'm looking forward to the arrival of the Van Daans, which is set for Tuesday. It will be much more fun and also not as quiet. You see, it's the silence that makes me so nervous about the evenings and nights. And I'd give anything to have one of our helpers sleep here. It's really not that bad here, since we can do our own cooking and can listen to the radio in Daddy's office. Mr. Kleiman and Miep and Bep Voskul, too, have helped us so much. We've already canned loads of rhubarb, strawberries, and cherries, so for the time being, I doubt we'll be bored. We also have a supply of reading material, and we're going to buy a lot of games. Of course, we can't ever look out the window or go outside, and we have to be quiet so the people downstairs can't hear us. Yesterday, we had our hands full. We had to pit 2 crates of cherries for Mr. Kugler to can. We're going to use the empty crates to make bookshelves. Someone's calling me. Yours, Anne. Comment added by Anne on September the 28th, 1942. Not being able to go outside upsets me more than I can say, and I'm terrified our hiding place will be discovered and that we'll be shot. That, of course, is a fairly dismal prospect. Sunday, July the 12th, 1942. They were all so nice to me a month ago because of my birthday, and yet every day I feel myself drifting further away from Mother and Margot. I worked hard today and they praised me only to start picking on me again 5 minutes later. You can easily see the difference between the way they deal with Margot and the way they deal with me. For example, Margot broke the vacuum cleaner, and because of that, we've been without light for the rest of the day. Mother said, "Well, Margot, it's easy to see you're not used to working. Otherwise, you'd have known better than to yank the plug out by the cord." Margot made some reply, and that was the end of the story. But this afternoon, when I wanted to rewrite something on Mother's shopping list because her handwriting is so hard to read, she wouldn't let me. She bawled me out again, and the whole family wound up getting involved. I don't fit in with them, and I've felt that clearly in the last few weeks. They're so sentimental together, but I'd rather be sentimental on my own. They're always saying how nice it is with the four of us and that we get along so well without giving a moment's thought to the fact that I don't feel that way. Daddy's the only one who understands me now and again, though he usually sides with Mother and Margot. Another thing I can't stand is having them talk about me in front of the outsiders, telling them how I cried or how sensibly I'm behaving. It's horrible. And sometimes they talk about Marjorie, and I can't take that at all. Myorte is my weak spot. I miss her every minute of the day, and no one knows how often I think of her. Whenever I do, my eyes fill with tears. Myorte is so sweet, and I love her so much that I keep dreaming she'll come back to us. I have plenty of dreams, but the reality is that we'll have to stay here until the war is over. We can't ever go outside, and the only visitors we can have are Miep, her husband Jan, Bep Voskil, Mr. Voskil, Mr. Kugler, Mr. Kleiman, and Mrs. Kleiman, though she hasn't come because she thinks it's too dangerous. Comment added by Anne in September of 1942. Daddy's always so nice. He understands me perfectly, and I wish we could have a heart-to-heart talk sometime without my bursting instantly into tears. But apparently that has to do with my age. I'd like to spend all my time writing, but that would probably get boring. Up to now, I've only confided my thoughts to my diary. I still haven't gotten around to writing amusing sketches that I could read aloud at a later date. In the future, I'm going to devote less time to sentimentality and more time to reality. Friday, August the 14th, 1942. Dearest Kitty, I've deserted you for an entire month, but so little has happened that I can't find a newsworthy item to relate every single day. The Von Daans arrived on July the 13th. We thought they were coming on the 14th, but from the 13th to the 16th, the Germans were sending out call-up notices right and left and causing a lot of unrest, so they decided it would be safer to leave a day too early than a day too late. Peter von Daan arrived at 9:30 in the morning while we were still at breakfast. Peter's going on 16, a shy, awkward boy whose company won't amount to much. Mr. and Mrs. von Daan came half an hour later. Much to our amusement, Mrs. von Daan was carrying a hat box with a large chamber pot inside. "I just don't feel at home without my chamber pot," she exclaimed, and it was the first item to find a permanent place under the divan. Instead of a chamber pot, Mr. von Daan was lugging a collapsible tea table under his arm. From the first, we ate our meals together, and after 3 days it felt as if the seven of us had become one big family. Naturally, the Von Daans had much to tell about the week we'd been away from civilization. We were especially interested on what happened to our apartment and to Mr. Goldschmidt. Mr. Von Daan filled us in. Monday morning at 9, Mr. Goldschmidt phoned and asked if I could come over. I went straight away and found a very distraught Mr. Goldschmidt. He showed me the note that the Frank family had left behind. As instructed, he was planning to bring the cat to the neighbors, which I agreed was a good idea. He was afraid the house was going to be searched, so we went through all the rooms, straightening up here and there and clearing the breakfast things off the table. Suddenly I saw a notepad on Mrs. Frank's desk with the address in Maastricht written on it. Even though I knew Mrs. Frank had left it on purpose, I pretended to be surprised and horrified and begged Mr. Goldschmidt to burn this incriminating piece of paper. I swore up and down that I knew nothing about your disappearance, but that the note had given me an idea. "Mr. Goldschmidt," I said, "I bet I know what this address refers to. About 6 months ago, a high-ranking officer came to the office. It seems he and Mr. Frank grew up together. He promised to help Mr. Frank if it was ever necessary. As I recall, he was stationed in Maastricht. I think this officer has kept his word and is somehow planning to help them cross over to Belgium and then to Switzerland. There's no harm in telling this to any friends of the Franks who come asking about them. Of course, you don't need to mention the part about Maastricht." And after that, I left. This is a story most of your friends have been told, because I heard it later from several other people. We thought it was extremely funny, but we laughed even harder when Mr. Von Daan told us that certain people have vivid imaginations. For example, the family living on our square claimed they saw all 4 of us riding on our bikes early in the morning, and another woman was absolutely positive she'd been loaded into some kind of military vehicle in the middle of the night. Yours, Anne. I'll go ahead and end this episode there, but yeah. So now they are in the midst of hiding. The Von Daans have joined them. And they talk about some of their experiences. One of the famous things you'll know when it comes to World War II and German-occupied territory, Jewish individuals had to wear a Star of David, a yellow Star of David, as an insignia, more or less, to show, they are Jewish. They should be beholden to these laws. Uh, yeah. But yeah, they're like, they even, as with Mr. Goldschmidt, he explains, or Goldschmidt and Von Daan, they explain, they don't even give full information on where they went, even though some of the people are their friends, because the less chance that even your friends know, the less chance of a slip up, or it can be coerced out of someone. So yeah. Um, but we can already see the effects of living together because Anne feels like they're more or less picking on her, using her as a punching bag, because she talks about uh, being congratulated for doing something, and then 5 minutes later they're picking on her. That she couldn't even rewrite something her mama's wrote because she had so much trouble reading her mom's writing that her mom snaps at her. So you can tell everybody's already under a lot of pressure. But yeah. It there's a lot going on, and she talks about her cat, Mortje, or Morte, Moortje, which I think is Morte. I suck at um, what was it, Dutch? And I think Holland is Dutch. Trying to remember where in Western Europe. Portugal, Spain, France. You got little Liechtenstein, Andorra, all the little in betweens. Uh, Belgium, and then I think you hit Holland. Or the Netherlands. Again, I think there's the same country. But yeah. Uh, bu- 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 yeah. But regardless, we're oh yeah, the cat, Morche. She talks a lot about so, and then Mr. Van Daan and Goldschmidt had to go through their former apartment to make sure there were things that wouldn't give hints or give clues to where they were. So yeah. But we'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.